Hello, everyone. We will be starting Chapter 2 of If You Can't Manage Them, You Can't Teach Them. Chapter 2, Relationships. Don't start class without them. On that first warm August school day, Chris entered my room with a vengeance. He strutted by me as I stood at the door. He did not say a word, but his message was loud and clear. He did not want to be here. He cared less about what I had to say. No one, including me, would tell him what to do. The struggle was set that first day, and it persisted. I prayed for him to be absent. Couldn't the child get a cold for just one day? After weeks of frustration, I asked my assistant principal to mediate a conversation between the two of us. Yes. It took up my entire prep period, but it was one of the best decisions I'd ever made regarding a child and his or her behavior. Chris talked first. He said he felt that I did not like him. He said that he sensed my animosity every day from the moment he walked into my classroom. I knew Chris wasn't far from the truth, so I asked him what I had done to give him these messages. He said it was the way I looked at him, the fact that I sat him in the back of the room, and that several times I did not call on him when he had his hand in the air. The mediation gave me a chance to explain that I did like him, but that he, too, was sending mixed messages to me about being in my class. After our conversation, I walked Chris back to his class. I asked him some questions about himself. In that short time, I learned about his love for his younger brother and for basketball. From then on, I mentioned something about basketball or checked in about his brother each time he entered class. I basically had begun to develop a safe relationship with Chris by talking with him about something other than school, by showing him that I had some interest in him as a person. My deepest bias. Caring, trusting relationships with students are absolutely the most important ingredients in an enjoyable, effective classroom. I cannot say this loudly or often enough. This is the foundation for joy and cooperation in your group. On a purely practical level, teachers will have far fewer discipline problems, struggles with students if they have nurtured good relationships with them. The sheer avoidance of problems is just a small part of the reward. Far deeper, broader, more meaningful to students, more satisfying, and more long lasting than are all the human benefits. This includes, among many benefits, students liking themselves and their school experiences better, learning more, and achieving at higher levels academically. Most educators agree that relationships are necessary for student academic success. Most have heard about or read at least some of the research that confirms this connection, but for many it isn't easy to develop these relationships. Teachers want good relationships with their students, but have some trepidations about the idea. Some aren't sure exactly what those relationships could or should be. Others fear that they don't have the right personality to establish meaningful, warm relationships with students. Some think that time spent building relationship robs time from their content areas. Some are concerned about transitioning from community time to the more structured academic time. Many admit, and many more feel it but don't admit it, that they just don't know how to do this. This chapter is here, right near the beginning of the book, to offer help. I want to help you understand why this is so important, what real teachers have experienced, what research confirms about student teacher relationships and classroom management, and what difference this makes for students. The chapter will show you what trusting, positive student teacher relationships look like and how to grow and nurture them. In addition, you'll find a selection of specific strategies you can use to start building these relationships that matter. Why relationships matter. Let's start with the bottom line. What teachers know without consulting any research: if students don't like you or don't feel like you like them, they're not going to like being in your class and they are not going to work hard. Students can't learn if they feel scared, desperately alone, invisible, unvalued, unknown. If students feel cared for, valued, and important, if they feel you are genuinely interested in them, they will feel safe enough to learn and grow. There's a growing body of exciting and fascinating research that gives us insight into why and how student teacher relationships make a difference. Here are a few of the key findings. I hope you can find time to dig deeper into some of the sources mentioned. You'll find full citations at the end of the book. Teachers who develop relationships with students experience fewer behavioral problems in the classroom and see better academic performance in their students' spot. Positive student teacher relationships are also associated with liking school more and with greater self direction by students. Teachers' actions in their classrooms have twice as much impact on student achievement as assessment policies, community involvement, or staff collegiality. Teachers who have high quality relationships with students have significantly fewer discipline problems, rule violations, and other related problems in class over a year's time than teachers who do not. Student teacher connectedness has a buffering effect in the presence of bullying that can otherwise negatively affect achievement. Students' academic success is optimized within caring, supportive, safe environments. A caring school environment is associated with higher grades, greater student engagement, higher expectations, better attendance, and few discipline problems. Student perceptions of teacher support are associated with greater feelings of belonging, greater academic engagement and motivation, greater valuing of academic subjects, higher expectations for academic success, and better academic performance. They are a stronger predictor of school interest than perceived parent or peer support. Trust is the key ingredient in efforts to raise standards and improve student learning and achievement. School can have abundant resources and effective teaching programs in place, but student learning will suffer it trusting student teacher relationships that are not part of the formula. Strong, trusting student teacher relationships are essential for learning. When students perceive support within their school environment, and feel respected and valued, they have fewer feelings of loneliness and less depression and anxiety. Students who perceive their teachers as caring engage more with academic content, take intellectual risks, adapt their behavior more appropriately, and keep trying in the face of failure. At middle and high school levels, students are more likely to be engaged with their learning and in high school are less likely to drop out. Students in middle grades are more likely to experience declines in academic motivation and self esteem than students in other grade spans. These declines can be linked to the classroom, particularly to unsatisfactory student teacher relationships. I share these research outcomes with you because I know they are true. I have seen and experienced all of these, believe me. You will never regret time you spend getting to know your students and working at strong, empathetic relationships. This time will pay off tenfold because you will spend much less time on that other painful, unproductive stuff such as wrangling with students, handling discipline issues, and bouncing back from disruptions to valuable learning experiences. Don't underestimate the power of founding relationships in your classroom. As Ron Volk, educator and founding editor of Education Week, has said, for many teachers, relationships are their teachers. What good relationships look like? So far, I've used a variety of words to describe relationships: good, effective, caring, trusting, empathetic, high quality, positive, connective, and all these are apt adjectives. Taken all together, and do take them all together, I'm sure you get the drift. One critical word in the list of descriptors is effective. The kinds of relationships I'm talking about here work to help adolescents thrive and grow personally, socially, emotionally, and academically. That's the goal of our chosen profession. That's what we intend to do. To be more specific, here are some signs that trusting, caring student relationships are present in a classroom. Look for these, cultivate these. Teacher pays attention to students as individuals. Students feel noticed. They do not look scared or alienated. Students have a voice. Their opinions are invited. The teacher listens and responds to students. Students are accepted. Their demeanor shows that they feel safe. The teacher speaks to students respectfully. Teacher does not yell. The teacher does not label, judge, or belittle students. The teacher's body language projects acceptance and care. The teacher respects the student's privacy. Students look comfortable in the presence of the teacher. The teacher does not speak sarcastically. There are no signs that the teacher favors some students over others. The teacher's actions show that he or she understands well the characteristics and needs of the age group. Students' talents, opinions, interests, and accomplishments are honored and celebrated. Teacher does not discipline, scold, or chide a student in front of other students. There are no signs of phoniness in the teacher. The teacher treats all students with respect at all times. It is evident that the teacher takes a personal interest in each student beyond his or her classroom performance or behavior. The teacher builds activities that ensure success for all students. The teacher models fair, respectful, positive behaviors. The teacher's behavior shows that he or she knows the academic talents, needs, and struggles of each student. How to nurture relationships. As I wrote earlier in the chapter, many teachers aren't confident that they can pull off these relationships. Teachers that I mentor or teachers I meet when I do presentations at conferences will often say something like this: "But Kim, you have this natural ability to relate to kids. You're comfortable with them. You're fun and funny and straightforward. You can do this, but I don't have your personality." So let me say this right now. You don't have to be Kim Campbell to build successful relationships with kids. You don't have to be a crack up, a comedian, laid back, easygoing, or a wild extrovert. And I have research to back me up. Duties. Ugh. Studies show something that should encourage you. Characteristics of effective student-teacher relationships are not dependent on the teacher's personality, and not even related to whether or not the teacher is a favorite of the students. Instead, effective relationships are characterized by specific behaviors, strategies, and fundamental attitudes that the teacher demonstrates. This is good news. If you're one of those who is nervous about establishing caring, trusting relationships with the students, listen up. You can learn to do this. Review Chapter 1 if you want to examine the fundamental attitudes that help you become or keep you from being a good manager. This chapter has already mentioned some specific behaviors, and here are more. Good student-teacher relationships grow in the classroom when you 1. Believe in students and help them believe in themselves. 2. Understand the developmental characteristics and needs of the age group and show this in your actions. 3. Get to know each student as a learner, her abilities, his strengths, her struggles, his learning styles, her fears. 4. Help students identify and develop their own unique abilities. 5. Help students succeed academically. Help a student master something with which she or he has struggled. 6. Nurture their abilities to help themselves. 7. Help students polish social skills they need to belong in class and wider social circles. 8. Help students develop skills of self-control, cooperation, adaptability, and judgment. 9. Help students develop decision-making and problem-solving skills. 10. Help them successfully navigate the pitfalls, difficulties, hidden rules, and red tape of middle school or high school. 11. Get to know personal stuff about each student, experiences, abilities, interests, activities, worries. 12. Set clear expectations and help students reach them. Notice that fundamental attitudes that the teacher demonstrates is one of the cornerstones of student-teacher relationships, see page 33. I wrote about this in chapter 1, but will repeat it here. What you believe or fear about your students, about yourself, about learning, and about the teaching process will affect the manager you become when you set foot in the classroom. This will also affect your relationship with students. Students' perceptions of your underlying attitudes and thus student relationships with you are constantly affected by how you speak to them, including tone of voice, your authenticity, differences in how you speak to them when another adult is present versus when no other adults are present, your body language, your facial expressions, your boundaries or lack thereof, your expression of your own emotions, ways you show you care or don't care. Caring, one student at a time. Care keeps showing up in this chapter. So much of the research about positive relationships includes this word. This gets tossed around a lot, but how specifically do you show you care? First of all, you can't just talk about caring, you have to really care. Students, particularly adolescents, can spot a phony miles away. They hear a lot of caring talk, and believe me, they know the authentic thing when they hear it. Add the word empathy to the discussion of caring because this is the kind of care needed to build effective relationships. Many research studies confirm that empathy on the part of a helper is the most important component of a relationship that really helps someone. And this is particularly true for difficult adolescents. Back in 1956, psychologist Alfred Adler defined empathy as seeing with the eyes of another, hearing with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. Empathy goes way beyond saying you care, it goes way beyond being kind and respectful. This is caring at a personal level. Showing students that you value their interests, cultures, and life experiences helps foster healthy relationships with them. When teachers ask me how to show empathy, I find the answer easy. Begin by establishing authentic, personal relationships, one student at a time. This is how you demonstrate caring by being interested in each student as a person. How to let students know you are interested. Here are some general topics, or general principles. Talk. Open to two-way dialogue. Ask questions. Ask for their opinions and insights. Listen. Ask meaningful questions and listen to the students' answers. Ask for feedback. Pay attention to what they say. Listen actively. Respond encouragingly without judgment. Learn. Find out about their interests, fears, activities, joys, family, out of school lives. Learn their stories. Relax. Do not micromanage the dialogue. Let them have the first word. Let them have the last word. Engage. Engage them on their learning. Get to know how they are working, what they need, what is easy, what is hard. Remember. Revisit topics and conversations to show that you remember the students' activities, goals, and interests. Nurture reflection. Ask lots of reflective questions. Provide your students with ways to evaluate their experiences and reflect on their questions, discoveries, and accomplishments. Share. Tell the students something about yourself, your interests, outside of school experiences, family, mishaps, and goals. This might sound hard, it might sound time consuming, might doubt that it is worth it, so I will end with 3 reminders. 1. Hard? Maybe. But since when do we want to avoid hard? Hey, we're teachers. We work our blank off. We can do hard, but here's the thing. Students perceive their teachers as caring when they make attempts to understand and connect with their students as individuals. Reread those bold words above. Students, even adolescents, are bigger hearted than they show. For all their tough exteriors, and despite their great skills at disguising their feelings, they crave positive, meaningful interaction with adults. They will see any genuine attempts you make and they will respond. Furthermore, this relationship thing, it not only helps students, as you develop positive personal relationships with students, you will be nurtured. You will find more joy in teaching, and you will not feel this is so hard. 2. Time consuming? You bet. But isn't this what you spend your time doing anyway? Relating to students? You will have relationships with students. You already do. The question is, will they be contentious, unsatisfying, disruptive to learning, or will they be positive and growth producing for students and for you? Furthermore, many of the techniques you can use do not take up a lot of time. There are dozens of ways to show personal interest with a brief question, comment, walk down the hall, short note, or 30-second chat. Whatever time it takes will pay off in rewards, not measurable in minutes and time not wasted on many issues. 3. Worth it? Absolutely. I can't say this enough, as you have probably noticed. Student engagement is connected to their feeling that he matters, that she is valued. Students will feel safer, they will behave better, they will be more engaged in learning, they will achieve at higher levels. Furthermore, you will change forever as a classroom manager. You've seen the research and read about benefits. These are not theoretical, they are for real. Relationship building strategies. Every teacher needs a toolbox full of ideas and activities for building relationships with her or his students. Here are several of my favorites, and be prepared. As you put strategies like these to work, your confidence as a classroom manager will bloom along with good relationships. If it works, keep doing it. I would guess that you already have some good techniques for building relationships with students, so this is the best place to start. Try to identify them. Go back to the reflection you did at the beginning of this chapter. Got relationships, right? You wrote down some things you know about each student in one of your classes. Think about how you came to know these things. What strategies have you used to make personal connections with individual students? Make a list of approaches, questions, or behaviors that you already use to build relationships. Then keep doing what you know works. Expand those tactics to other students. Add more strategies and goals to your list as your year progresses. The greeting that keeps on giving. Greeting anyone, especially students, is the initial step in the beginning of any relationship. I mean, greeting them with something other than, please take your seats and quiet down, or turn to page 23 and let's get started. Students need to feel welcomed. They need to feel your interest in them. I start each of my classes by saying, hi, team. Students greet me with a greeting they have chosen. Early in the year, students make recommendations. Class decides with a vote. Over the years, I've had various types of greetings, everything from a grunt to a line from the sitcom Friends, how you doing? Whatever the choice, I greet the students, and they greet me before we start class. Hi, team is a deliberate choice for me. I use this greeting because, in essence, I am attempting to create a team atmosphere within my classroom. My years as a coach taught me the value of establishing a team concept in the classroom. A team works together, helps each other succeed, and is led by a motivated coach. A coach inspires, teaches, disciplines, and clearly recognizes the importance of building relationships with the athletes to access their full potential. Teachers who use a coach's mentality, both as an instructor and a disciplinarian, may see great benefits in the student's response and behavior. It never fails. Every year, I will have a student ask me, why do you start class with hi team? Oh, the joys of those teachable moments. Once this question is asked, I have the opportunity to explain how important it is for all students in this class to function as a team, to work together, to understand that there is no I in team. All that good stuff that coaches do and say every day. Greet, meet, manage. A great way to make sure you connect with each student is to hand out materials, index cards, worksheets, and so on as they enter the classroom. This allows you to greet each student, connecting with each on a personal level, asking a short question or giving a short comment or encouragement. Since hall duty is usually part of every teacher's job, greeting students in the hallway or at the door works well to help the students begin to focus on your class subject area. Many teachers dread transitions because of management problems. A nice bonus of greet, meet, and manage is that it cuts out a transition. Make sure that whatever you hand them is something they can begin without your help and not something they can copy from each other. With some classes standing in the hall handing out materials is simply asking for trouble. I'm thinking of a class I had with 25 boys and 4 girls. As the boys entered the class, the room became a football field. They would push, shove, and toss whatever was not fastened down. Therefore, I had to begin managing even before the class officially begun. My solution still involved greeting everyone at the door and handing out necessary materials, but I stood partially in the doorway so that my eyes could take in both my room and the hallway. Hey, it worked. The football game ended with my whole team winning. Share, talk, bond. Following our daily group meeting, I asked my students if they have anything they want to share with the class and me today. This invites students to share appropriate comments and stories. It allows me to learn about their lives outside of the classroom. Maybe just as importantly, it gives me a chance to share appropriate stories about myself, such as tales about the dog I love so much, and so on. This models sharing and trust and gives students a glimpse of me as a person and not just a teacher. As a part of the sharing time, I can help students learn to set and stay within boundaries. We have time boundaries, limits on how long each person can talk, and a time limit for the sharing period. We also have guidelines for what is appropriate to share and for ways to listen respectfully and tolerantly. Students share personal details such as their ball game scores or the birth of a baby sister or the latest favorite popular song. Share time Share time builds an atmosphere of inclusion, relaxation, and safety. Placing a strict time limit on daily sharing helps students know when it's time to start classwork. As students feel comfortable, they often feel safe enough to share very personal things. One of my students shared about sexual molestation by her sister's boyfriend. Class grew silent, looking at me. I stood there, heart pounding, wondering what to say. I responded simply, I'm so sorry to hear that. I appreciate you sharing. Perhaps when things like this happen, we should share them in private or with the school counselor. Also, I hope all of you realize that I must tell the authorities about this. It's a law that I have to follow as a teacher. She looked at me and said, Yeah, I know. After class, I held the student back and we talked again. I explained in detail why I had to report this to the counselor. My heart, tell- my heart tells me she knew this, and it could be why she shared. So remember, as you build strong, positive relationships, students will start to open up to you and share things, and that may place you in an uncomfortable position. Benefits of developing those relationships will be worth all the uncomfortable moments you experience. Share time has become such a part of my classroom and routine that when it doesn't happen, my students seem to be out of sorts. They don't function as well. For example, I had a class with 25 boys and 4 girls. Yes, we all survived. Every time I had to be gone, this particular class would give the substitute teacher fits, and every time I would come back, we would talk about it and try to figure out why their behavior was so awful. Finally, one student said, Miss C, I think I know why we struggle when you were gone. It's because the sub never lets us have share time. The day just gets off to a bad start. Don't worry, time spent creating a safe environment and enjoyment of each other will make your academic time more productive, but if you want to shorten the time, try one of these. One, as students do an academic warm up activity at their seats, walk around and talk to students about things that do not relate to school. Two, take a quick break in the middle of class. Stop, drop, and share. Take 5 minutes to just let them share highlights of their day or week with a partner or with a class. Three, do share time at the end of the class period when you have those last 5 minutes that seem to be wasted. The students are just milling around waiting to leave. 4. For a brief warm up plus share time, ask students to write on a note card 5 things that are going well for them this week, and collect the cards and read a few aloud to the class with permission. See if other students can guess whose highlight or card you are reading. Walk and talk. With so little time and so much to do, teachers have taken multitasking to another level. Walk and talk is one way to build or rebuild relationships with your students while you are doing other things you need to do. You could be on hall duty and thinking about your next class. Now, at the same time, you see a student of yours walking in the hallway. You may not have had much time with this student today or for a while, so you begin to walk with this student. Conversation can be light or it can be about your class, or it can be about anything that relates to this student. You don't have to walk far, you don't have to impart wisdom. Walk and talk simply means that you visit with students as you walk and build your relationship as you talk. Writing your life, few things are so connecting as telling one's story to someone else who cares enough to read or listen. Take some time early in the year for students to write an autobiography or create some other piece of writing that tells some part of a life story. Share whatever pieces of this writing that students grant permission to share. Find a way to publish parts of these, again with student permission. This process will deepen your understanding of individuals and also help students know and appreciate one another. You're the first to know. We all know how important it is to be in contact with parents on a regular basis, and how critical it is to build good relationships with parents. We also know that we need to be aware of how our contact with parents may affect the child parent relationship as well as our relationship with the child. But remember that as the teacher, your primary relationship is with the student. Parents are second. So when incidents happen between you and a student, it is vitally important that you do not call home to inform the parents unless you have told the student to do so. Of course, there are exceptions to this, but informing the student first helps maintain trust between you and the student. By informing the student, you model problem solving, behavior, and honest, open communication. You also model respect. Do not report to the student's authority figures before informing the student. I have no reservations about calling parents when there's a need. In fact, a relationship with parents is my second most important relationship. I simply inform the student before calling the parent. Remember, the bottom line is that you and the student will see each other every day. You need to find a way to make things work between the two of you. We need When a need arises to visit with a parent in disciplinary action or academic concern, I will inform the student before contacting the parent. unless there is an emergency or an extraordinary circumstance. Each year, our school has an open house. I use this opportunity to explain my philosophy to my parents. I also tell them that when I do call, I need their help. I will likely be calling because I've exhausted all my ideas for working with their child. The number of affirmative nods I see in my audience of parents tells me that this philosophy resonates with them. You gotta know when to hold them, you gotta know when to scold them. Most adolescents want to be liked. This includes being liked and respected by their teachers. However, teachers of adolescents know they will often do or say something that requires teachers to redirect, discipline, or remove them from the classroom. Neither the teacher nor the student enjoys this experience. The problem might be a power struggle, it could be an infraction of classroom rules, or it might be just plain misbehavior. You must handle these situations with firmness, with the understood consequences for the infraction. At the same time, you must deal with the anger, yours and the students. When these situations happen, you, as an adult, can move on fairly easy. You can usually be somewhat objective about the incident. Students, however, may not be capable or willing to see the whole picture. All too often, what does not happen the follow up or check in between student after the incident. Sometimes the teacher and the student don't see each other until the child arrives back at the class the next day. The student has spent approximately 24 hours wondering if the teacher is still angry, if the teacher is ready to move on, or if the teacher will hold a grudge for the rest of the year. She or he may hold on to this anger, feeling wronged and embarrassed. For the adolescent brain, this spells concern and possible trouble. For some adolescents, the situation turns into a power struggle and they will arrive at class ready to win at all costs. Insecurity may lead them to act out again, try to get your attention inappropriately, or even skip class. Students often form opinions and develop attitudes that can be hard to change. For some adolescents, the brain tells them to quit, to give up, that it's not worth the effort or worth attending class. In addition, students may feel that the classroom is no longer a safe place. Therefore, I never let my watch end without connecting with a student whom I've had to discipline in class. Whenever I've had a significant situation with the students in class, I always take time to find the student during the school day. I reconnect with him or her by walking and talking, taking my prep time to find the student and visit about the incident, or finding him or her after school, or at least before school or class the next day. I approach the student with a greeting and quickly tell him or her that I think we need to talk about what happened, and I ask if the student agrees. If the answer is no, I express that I need to talk about it. If the answer is yes, I ask if the student wants to give a viewpoint or explanation first, or should I. We then proceed to talk about what happened in a manner that helps us understand each other better. This gives the students a chance to be heard or to apologize, and it gives me a chance to let the student know what that kind of behavior does to the class, to the student, and to me. This type of discussion leads to understanding, trust, and respect between us. Take this time to check in or touch base after a problem. For me, this has rebuilt and saved countless relationships with kids. It has also made me a better teacher because I hear and listen to their perspectives. Both of us are calm. It is my responsibility as the teacher and as the adult to talk to that student about my feelings, actions. His or her feelings and his or her actions. Work with pre-adolescents and adolescents, you will probably have to scold them. You also need to hold them. Respect their thoughts and feelings in order to maintain and preserve that relationship. Yes, it takes extra time, effort, and courage, but the benefits and modeling of connected behavior are well worth it. Sorry seems so hard to say. Teachers are human. We experience lots of emotions when working in a middle or high school. Those emotions can present themselves in a variety of ways and at a variety of times. Sometimes, when incidents with students have an emotional impact on us, we don't always respond and react in the best way possible. After all, regardless of what they say, we are human. Instead of waiting, calming down, and making a decision or a comment where we are less fired up or hurt, we may respond or make a decision out of an immediate reaction. Even a headache or just being tired can lead to an overreaction. One thing I've learned in working with adolescent students is that it is okay to admit that you, the teacher, are wrong. I've apologized to students in private as well as to the entire class. When I do admit to being wrong, my credibility does not weaken. Rather, it is strengthened because I have accepted responsibility for my part in an unfortunate situation. I have modeled accepting responsibility by saying two words: I'm sorry. I truly believe that the more human qualities I can reveal and use, the more I teach. The more I will create an environment of trust, safety, and cooperation. Shake it up, baby, now. About 3 weeks into my school year, I introduced my students to the special secret Campbell handshake. I make a big deal about how lucky I am to have the best students in our school and that I think the time has come for all of us to have a secret handshake, only, only to be shared with my fellow Campbell kids. A small way to make my students feel special and to build the community. I use the Campbell handshake to break up a long sitting period in class. I'll say something such as, "Okay, we've been quiet and sitting too long. Find a partner and give that person the Campbell shake." I also use the shake during transition times or to greet their work group. Whenever we have a guest in our class, the class insists on teaching the secret handshake. The handshake has evolved over the years, and as each class adds a new part. Caution: plan to do this in your classroom, and you know you have a gang presence in your school. Talk to your police liaison or school counselor so you are aware of gang hand gestures. Pictures are worth a thousand words. Today's generations of students are referred to as digital natives, veteran teachers as digital immigrants. Technology is the language of your student. Miss opportunities to connect with students if we have little interest in good ways to effectively use or little experience with tools and technology. Look for opportunities to incorporate technology in teaching and classroom life. Look for opportunities to use these tools to deepen your connections. Use digital presentation programs such as active boards, interactive digital whiteboards to project a vision that will help students grasp concepts. Add a personal touch by interjecting pictures of yourself or your interests. After a recent trip to China, I shared pictures of my experience to break up the routine and to see if students were paying attention. I'd added among the slides a picture of myself at high school prom. So here we were cruising along on a lesson about China when suddenly there appeared a picture of my date and me 20 years ago. After the laughter and a short discussion on how I was able to get my hair to stand up that tall, we returned to our discussion on China. Beware, I had one student actually ask me if I really did wear that outfit to China. I let her I let him ponder that one for a while. The laughter connection. Try this. Survey your students about characteristics that will make an effective team. I guarantee that fun will show up on most lists. One year I surveyed my students and asked them the following questions. Many of you like fun teachers. What does it mean to be a fun teacher? Most consistent answer given was that a fun teacher is someone who laughs and smiles. Unfortunately, I've heard countless teachers say, "Well, I'm just not a funny person, never have been and never will be." After watching some of them teach, I'm in total agreement with their diagnoses. However, what the surveyed students said was that a fun teacher is someone who laughs and smiles. They did not say a fun teacher is one who is funny, or a fun teacher is one who makes us laugh. I believe what students are saying that they relate to teachers who have a sense of humor, teachers who smile, teachers who laugh with their students, teachers who laugh at themselves. It is not the same thing as a funny teacher. Laughter and humor are connected. When you show your sense of humor, you show that you are human, especially if students see that you can laugh at yourself. Laughter breaks barriers of age and ability. It can diffuse tense situations. When you smile, you show students that you are happy being around them. When you laugh, you show students that you can enjoy sharing something funny with them. This is especially important if you're trying to develop relationships with adolescents. Humor helps students relax and enjoy each other too. Caution you though. Humor is only connective when it is appropriate and when it is not harmful.
You will find more about humor in classroom management in Chapter 11, but I emphasize here that a teacher must never laugh at a student or participate in laughing or smiling when someone else is criticizing or teasing a student. Sarcasm is not appropriate humor for a classroom. Humor is a wonderful connector, but sarcasm has no place in a classroom, even with teenagers. Find out what you don't know. As teachers, we all hope that every child in the school has a trusting relationship with some adult in the school community. We recognize that many students, particularly those who are shy and quiet, do what they are supposed to do and may fly under the relationship radar. It is critical that we have strategies, alone and particularly together with colleagues or teammates, to get a true picture of students' connections to adults. We must find out which students are falling through the cracks. One way to do this is to join together for an activity known as the Student's Name Game. Before you start, your group of adults must discuss and agree on what constitutes a relationship. My team of teachers decided that a relationship consisted of knowing something personal about a student other than how they perform or behave in class. Also, before you start, understand that this is not a competition among teachers, nor will the activity involve any judgment of their building, relationship building skills. This is purely about the students, a genuine effort to see that every student has at least one safe, trusted adult ally in the school. Note that this is an extension of the activity you did on page 24. What is the different what is different here is that it is done with a team or group of teachers who deal with the same students, and the goal is to find students who have fallen through the cracks. 1. At a team department or faculty meeting, place the name of each student on your team or in your school/grade/department on an index card. Sit in a circle, distribute the cards evenly among the teachers. 2. Each teacher pulls out of his or her stack the name card of students with whom they have a relationship, then passes the remaining cards to the left. Repeat the process until all teachers have viewed all cards. Take the remaining name cards and spread them out on the floor, table, or corkboard. 4. Each teacher then adopts one or two or more, depending on the number of students of the remaining student. 5. Each teacher sets a plan to connect with students they adopted. This works best if teachers set goals in writing, identify strategies, track of their contexts with the students. 6. This is a powerful way to make the topic of relationships concrete and more personal. Come back together as a group in a month and repeat the activity. Share the techniques you have used. Share stories about these students to see how this approach has affected them. Trustbusters. In his book, Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire, Rafe Esquith says that students must be able to trust that you are in charge, that you will be able to keep them safe, and that respect will be mutual. He also says trust is so important that you need to talk to students about it during the day, 2 minutes of the first day of class. Not only must teachers talk about trust, they must also demonstrate trust either by reading a story or devising a specific activity. Developing trust is critical in any relationship. Teachers model trust and trustworthiness, or lack of these. Yay. You follow through with what you say you're going to do. You say you're going to give the students a break during class, do you? You tell your students that you will return their tests tomorrow, then don't. Do you threaten to send a student to the hallway for their behavior, then don't. These are just a few examples of trust busters that can damage your relationships with students. It's a great compliment when students ask you to attend a sporting event or concert, but never tell them you are going to be there when you know you have other commitments. Be honest and simply tell them you have other responsibilities and can't make it. Middle and high school students clearly understand when you tell them you are busy versus simply not showing up when you said you would. Students are watching you all the time and deciding if you can be trusted. Don't let them down. What's up? If you're going to connect with kids, you just have to know what's going on with them. I've already written about individual connection. Here, I mean, know that they are liking, mimicking, listening to, dancing to, singing, watching, carrying around, wearing. Get with it. Learn their language. You don't have to use it, just know what it means. Get familiar with their music and jargon. Watch some of the TV shows, YouTube hits, and other media stuff that captivates them. Know how the social networks work. Know how to read the text messages you see. Surprise them. They might think they can talk about stuff that you get. Burst out into lyrics of a hit song. Appropriate lyrics, of course. Get familiar with the technology they use. Don't get buried in the sand. Keep up so you know what's up. Move slowly. No matter what student teacher relationship strategy, create or borrow, be sure to start with low risk activities. Take small steps toward your goal of building relationships. Don't push students to uncomfortable or false connections. By mid year, you probably will be ready to take bigger risks with your students, and they'll be ready to risk more connection. Never underestimate the effects of positive relationships with students. I'll risk repeating my message of this entire chapter. Great teachers purposely and consistently conduct relationship building activities inside and outside their classroom. This will make all the other techniques in the rest of this book come to you more easily. And that ends chapter 2, relationship.